Hello and welcome to 10 Very Big Books, a Malazan Readthrough podcast. My name is Peter Bond. I've read every book in the main series. However, my co-hosts are reading the series for the first time. With me today is my friend and closest confidant, India Jones.
Good morning.
And our very sleepy producer, AJ Fileri.
Hi.
And Joshua Dean, covered in cream, Baker.
No. I'm good, actually. I prefer when there are, like, vague hints to something that happened in Malazan. I'm actually good out here. I don't want to be covered in cream.
You know, that name comes in from Matt, so great appreciation, nothing but love, you know.
Matt, I don't know what I did to you, but I'm so sorry, I guess.
I'm not covered in cream.
I actually really despise the feeling of lotion. I don't know if anyone else feels that way. Luckily,
I do too.
I have annoyingly naturally soft hands and skin.
Annoyingly?
Yeah, like whenever HR or any girl feels my hand, they do typically ask if I lotion, and I'm like, no, literally never.
Okay, leaving this topic aside, I wanted to leaving Josh's soft hands out of it. I wanted to shout out Jonas for helping us edit the script notes. I really appreciate it, you know. And then my second point I wanted to do, I'm going to drop us in before we get into the show into a little emergency pronunciation nation.
Oh, no.
We've gotten some complaints.
Well, the thing is, as we've well established, our pronunciations about this book are, I would say, all over the place, very confused, you know. Breeze, Bryce, you know, what's going on with Tehol? I don't know, you know. But I did see, I don't know if we want to ascribe Steve the power to dictate enunciations. You know, that's a question that, you know, I would get into, you know. But he does, let the record show, he does pronounce his name Udinas. So this is
how have we been doing it?
That's how I've been saying it.
I've been saying it Udanas.
Yeah,
which is
I've been saying Udinas.
Udinas makes sense, yeah.
Yeah,
okay,
Pete,
well, you can't retroactively all be like, well, I feel how
Pete,
Steve
we
feels.
have all been saying Udinas.
We have been saying it.
You have been saying Udanis because you're a monster. I don't think anyone else really has.
In my mind, we've all been saying Udanas.
No.
So.
Well,
no.
and we were all saying that other thing too.
What?
I don't remember what it was.
Well, you lost me on that, Inge.
Yeah, I'm out.
And I swear to God, once I finish reading this chapter summary, if you're still playing Spyro the Dragon, I'm going to leave this podcast.
I'm turning it off. It's off.
Okay.
It's off.
All right. Let's start the fucking show.
Wait, that whole pronunciation nation was for a word only you were saying wrong?
I thought it was more pertinent. I thought when I launched this into the section, I thought it was going to be really exciting. Like, oh my gosh, I found out this big news, but I see, you know, but, all right. Chapter 9. On a beach, Rhulad Sengar washes up. He is greeted by the blacksmith Withel, who escorts him to meet the crippled god. The crippled god speaks then of peace, and how Hanan Mosik has betrayed him by not pursuing conquest. The crippled god then offers the sword, and ambition lights up in Rhulad. This was only his first death. Amongst the Eater, Seren speaks with Hull, and soon they see the Sengar sons returning with Rhulad's body. She feels discomforted and worries what this will mean for Tomad, the Warlock King, and the Eador. Udinas, too, sees Rhulad's corpse and knows he will have to prepare the body. The slave will have to cover the body in wax and gold coins, according to the Eador tradition. The Warlock King, however, is furious that Rhulad is touched and still grasps the sword. He wishes to sever the hand from him, but Rhulad's Mother Earth forbids it. They agree to negotiate while the body thaws, and Udinas will prepare it for burial. Seren talks with Baruch about the Jek, and she is intrigued by Trull. They briefly speculate about the sword and Rhulad. Udinas then begins to prepare the body with the other slaves, speaking of debts. Then he is left alone with wax and coins to cover the body. Trull is alone. He worries what this means for the Eater's alliance and what the Warlock King wants. He still feels guilty over what happened with Rhulad, and dread sets into him. Udinas has covered the front of the corpse now in hot wax and over 100 gold coins. He then flips the corpse over and begins the back. Troll is found by his brother Fear. Mourning Rhulad has begun, however the Warlock King feels as if the Sengar brothers have betrayed him. Their parents are negotiating, and Benatis is being healed. Fear also feels an ominous presence, and he says that he wishes that Troll is always by his side. Troll falls asleep then, consumed by his sorrow. Udinas continues his work, readying to finish when the wax cracks. The corpse's jaw opens up, and it screams. Troll is awoken by the scream. He and Fear rush to it. Fear orders Mayan to keep everyone out, and they enter to try and control the situation. Udinas is there trying to comfort the screaming Rhulad, who is desperate to get the coins out of his eyes. Udinas is gentle with Rhulad and calmly helps Rhulad with his eyes. The slave begins to leave, but Rhulad grabs him. Troll tells Udinas to stay by Rhulad's side. Rhulad speaks then, and Troll is disturbed, feeling as if everything has changed. Then his parents arrive, and finally, the Warlock King. So Josh, last episode when we were discussing Rhulad's death was one of the... usually I'm lying to you by omission or just not talking, but like I would say I full-on misled you whilst discussing the death of Rhulad. But this chapter immediately picks it up, and like we're on the beach, and like how quickly did you start putting things into place, or how quickly did you come to understand what was maybe going on here?
I understood it, like, I wanted to understand it a little bit earlier than I did, but I did realize it was Rhulad one sentence before the Warlock, or before the Crippled God said his name. I actually messaged the group, because I was like, I feel so good that I got this so quickly, and then I picked the book app, and then it's like, the Crippled God spoke, Rhulad, or whatever, and I was like, fuck, I only just got there, but I don't know, I felt like I understood, I fully was just like, oh, this really tracks, like, Rhulad is like, kind of, it feels like, way more suited to the Crippled God than like a Karsa. You know what I mean? Like Karsa wants power, but he really wants to earn it in a lot of ways. Versus Rhulad is like, you're going to give me what? And I have to just be not cool? Got it. Done. So I actually think I really disliked the character of Rhulad because I did not find him interesting, and now I find it the coolest shit in the book, and I love it. I love every bit about it. I'm just going to say right here, these 3 chapters have really made me a fucking Midnight Tide stan. It has surpassed Memories of Ice for me, and we're only halfway through.
Wow.
Yeah.
Inja, what did you, Rhulad washes up on the beach. How quickly did you start to understand the situation he was in and what maybe the Crippled God was up to? Because I would say this is the first time we've seen this in the prologue, and it's like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm here on the beach, you know?
I didn't realize it was him until he said it was him. I don't know how I should have.
It was when he said, "Have you killed?" And I was just like, I don't know, something about that sentence made me just go like, fuck, it's Rhulad! Like out loud, I said that.
Powerful.
Yeah. I don't know. It was misleading. You know, it was gray. So I just thought it was a gray-skinned person. But no. All that to say, I have no idea what the Crippled God is up to. This takes place, obviously, like, in the past.
Yeah.
So I don't get what happened. Like, if the Crippled God is am I supposed to know who Rhulad is, like, in the now at all?
Like, in, like, the timeline of where House of Chains was, is what you mean?
Yeah.
No, I don't think you have any hints about what's...
So then what am I have no idea. I have no idea why he did that. But I'm not going to bring up my questions because I hate when I do that and then we get into a topic that's 2 chapters later. So I'm not going to bring that up yet. But I just thought it was just really weird and strange. The conversation, who is the Who is Whittle?
Withel, he's the Mekros sword maker who kind of made this sword that
From the prologue.
Rhulad has now.
Oh, I didn't know he made that sword. I didn't put two and two.
Get that either.
Oh, okay. Well, hold the front fucking door. Now I am confused. Hold on.
I mean, the prologue ends with him like, I need you to make me a sword.
Yeah, that was the prologue, Peter. And since then, we've done a lot together, okay?
Oh,
and so hold on.
Oh!
Yeah, okay, so hold on. I really thought that, and he's Necros, which is the same people that Baruch the Pale has under him right now. Is that correct?
No, that's different.
He's Mekros.
Mekros with an M. Okay.
Yeah, the Baruch the Pale have the Narek under.
The Narek, that's right. Just some consonants and E's and K's and R's. Cool. Okay. And so that was only, how many years has Withel been here? Because I really felt like when they went to get the sword, I thought it was like, this sword's been here for generations. But I guess it's just been there for like a minute? That's okay.
They just left it there for the Warlock
They just
King?
threw it down and they were like, you gotta walk into the ice to get it, buddy?
AJ, you're raising your hand.
Yeah, I am very proud of myself because I usually Josh has a pretty firm grasp on stuff that's happening, and especially like reveals and whatnot. But from word 7, when he says a body naked and gray, I was like, oh, okay, it's Rhulad. Like instantly, because and at that point it was just like I guess based on nothing other than Rhulad was the most recent person that we had seen die.
True.
I don't know. Yeah, and then when we're talking about the sword and stuff, I am more and more under the impression that the crippled god exists outside of time.
That was my question.
Because in the beginning, in the prologue, he's talking about how like, oh, my cough is clearing up, but like all the troll or all the stuff that's happening in this book happens, however long before the other
not too awfully long before House of Change, I think, right? I think we talked about this.
But it happens before that, and we've seen the crippled god.
That's true. We saw
in
him
the
in
books
House of
before this,
Chains,
and he's like really bad. Like he's rough in Memories of Ice. He's not feeling good at all. So I mean, unless this happens between Memories of Ice and House of Change, but I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like I'm more confused than I was 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely confused.
The crippled god has this long conversation in which he's like talks about how like peace is for losers.
Yeah.
And how like what we
it's not
really
that peace is for losers. It's that
I know. I was what? Okay. No, please, AJ, defend the crippled god for me.
No, it's fine. Continue.
No, I enjoyed the exchange. I was just being a bit flip, but
yeah.
I was going to ask more about. I wanted to focus on Rhulad in that scene and Inge. So when Rhulad is there and like takes up this sword and like I think the phrase like it is something like lights up with ambition or ambition fires within or something.
He's so stupid.
Yeah. How did you feel about this? Like, were you surprised that he was like in on it, in for it? I should say.
Yeah, no, I wasn't. He just to see like how it starts there, and then when we get to him like screaming, and then how he is in the end, it's just like this tracks because he is such a freaking baby, and he'll do anything for power and what he, I guess, sees as loyalty and respect, because he's just a baby, and I hate him so much. I'm so annoyed at his character. It does make sense. I don't get, however, what is going to come from, like, the crippled god is, like, low-key pissed that the Warlock King didn't want to be all, like, in war.
The Warlock King wasn't setting out for conquest, right? Mm-hmm.
So he's like, well, how he knew that Rhulad was going to be so down, or did he not, like, I just don't understand. Was this intentional then? Or did it just like, is this like by happy circumstance, Rhulad got it and also turned out to be, a little sociopath? Maybe
he's just making the best of a bad situation. Like maybe he did want Han and Mosag to get it, but like since it ended up in Rulad's hands, he's like, well, this dude's fucking an idiot anyway. I can use this.
Yeah, you'd have to have like some incredible foresight to
yes.
That, I mean,
expect...
That
Go ahead, AJ.
I was gonna say that could speak more to him living outside time if he could see everything and he's like, I know this person will be good for me. I don't know. But also, where are they? And also, if his body came up there
So he has a second body now, where he could talk to the Warlock King.
Well, I think
in a body.
I think this is another.
Or was it a dream?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think this is another Udinas dream situation where he has he gets hurt here, but then wakes up and is like, my body.
Now wait, that's confused. Now this is confusing though, because Withel's there, and Withel's made a sword that is in the real world. So Withel seems to be pretty alive there. How is Rhulad?
Also, I just looked it up.
That seems like some bullshit.
We begin Memories of Ice in 1164, and the Crippled God is still doing pretty bad at the end of 1164. And then in Midnight Tides, Withel washes up on shore in 1159. So
I have heard people say, I don't know, I feel like Peter said before that sometimes
there are timeline inconsistencies, and I don't know if this is one of them.
Did he wash up on shore because he died?
Yeah.
Yes, presumably. Because the Crippled God wouldn't let him pass on.
Yeah.
So I want to drag our conversation back to the chapter and leave some of these metaphysical questions there.
Got any answers, PB?
I have more answers than you have. I don't have all them, but I feel like I'd rather just leave that be. So we come back and we come to a short scene with Seren. She's talking about she sees the Sengard brothers return. And AJ, I wonder how you felt about this Seren stuff, because she has two brief scenes, but for me, I think the way this chapter opens and the way it's structured, all building to the ending with Rhulad kind of awakening, I think this is such a fantastic chapter, and it's so powerful. And I think starting from this first scene, it kind of lights a fuse, and we kind of know through... and it's tough I didn't know if this was something I knew as a rereader in a way, that I felt like this whole chapter, I was kind of waiting for the bomb to go off. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Especially in these Seren scenes, and, later when Udinas is there and just slowly preparing all these things. So I wonder during these Seren conversations, what you were thinking, and if you too felt a sense of impending dread.
Yeah, I definitely felt an impending, I don't know if it was dread, but definitely an impending something, because we still don't know really how the conversation with the Warlock King and Hull and Burke went, specifically, the implications of that have not made themselves known. And I don't even know if by the end of this section of the book, if we really figure it out, because circumstances change. But I was definitely kind of waiting for something to happen, like in the Seren sections and whatnot. But definitely not what does happen. I was super caught off guard by that. Yeah. Because in my mind, the Udinas parts, I know you were asking me about Seren, and I'm kind of skipping ahead, but the Udinas parts kind of were like little reprieves in this chapter of we would do something else and then we'd go back to Udinas with the coins and the wax, and then we would do something else and then we'd go back to Udinas with the coins and the wax. And it was kind of meditative and seeing, and we already know this process, right? But seeing the care that goes into it and the fact that he has to be doing it by himself, I don't know, there was something very kind of meditative about it, which made the reveal even more horrible for me. But I do really enjoy these Seren sections in this chapter, because I think I said it in the Discord. She is so inside and outside of everything at the same time, that she is able to kind of take everything in an objective kind of lens, in a way. She doesn't really have a stake either way. She is with Burke and Hull and stuff, but she doesn't really have her position as an acquitter. Seems kind of just to be an observer and to not really do anything. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, that's basically, I would say, fair.
So I just really enjoy it. I think it's a point of view kind of like Duiker, where she's just kind of observing everything that's going on, and it's very interesting.
It's an interesting conversation, interesting comparison. Inge, you look a little skeptical.
No, I'm not. Her part, Seren bores me at this point.
Really?
Before I was kind of interested in it, but now every time I get to her part, it's just it is so much more of an observer role. And when she's observing, she's also taking note of all of the landscape around her, which bothers me. How I feel about a lot of adjectives. So,
well, let me ask you this then, because AJ made this interesting comparison. Obviously, from my memory, you were not a particularly big Duiker for the same reason, as like he was spending a lot of time kind of observing, and his point of view is a lot about how these events were being reflected through this character's perspective. So what do you think about that approach leaves you out in the cold?
Because for those kinds of like, I guess, point of views, I'm just kind of like, what's the point? I know there's a point. Don't get me wrong. I guess there's a point-ish.
It is a book.
But, like, it doesn't do it for me. Because, like, whatever you're picking up on when you read that, you can just really be certain that I'm not. So I just don't, like, get it. Like, in the last few chapters, I feel like what she was observing was, like, interesting because it was enhancing the story. But in this part, and, like, I just feel like she doesn't. I'm not learning anything. I'm just reading filler, is what it feels like.
Oh, man, that's so interesting. Yeah, I guess I'm going to speak a little bit more about my love for Seren, but I mentioned she's probably my favorite character in the book, so it's very interesting to hear you're kind of bouncing off her in a bit, Inge.
I really liked her in the last chapter. It's just, I don't know. I don't know about this one. I was bored.
Yeah, I don't know. Listen, she's not the thrust of this chapter at all, right? And I want to get to the thrust of this chapter, which AJ kind of mentioned. I actually feel like the thrust of this chapter, in a way, is kind of Udinas, who I really am so struggling to get used to.
Hey, you're trying.
I'm really
man.
trying. I'm really trying. But Udinas is the head. Kind of. There's a lot of weight on his part in the story, but I don't want to quite get there yet. Rather, I want to talk about Trull, who I think is such a counterpoint. Right? I think, AJ, maybe what you were getting at is those Udinas sections are kind of meditative because they're about process and they're kind of about something physical, as opposed to Trull's sections, which, as we were kind of talking about, really he is becoming like
sad.
The sadness has begun, you know? If we were at like cranked up to 11 in House of Chains, we are like, the dial is really starting to turn up, you know?
There's a part in this, one of the Seren, I think it might be the first Seren section, it says, she was always drawn to the hurting ones. And I just wrote, in my notes, I just wrote same.
That's funny. So Josh, what did you make of these Trull sections, and what do you think of his kind of, obviously, I think he's obviously blaming himself for all this in a way, right?
It's tough because when I read something like this, I always pull for like this person, you know, being able to convey these thoughts and emotions in a way that like makes others listen to them rather than coming across as insufferable. And the problem is I know that he comes across as insufferable and no one listens to him, and then he gets disavowed by his family and everyone he's ever known and then left for dead. And so they really just has this overbearing sense of what's the fucking point while I read it.
I will say, I do agree. He does not articulate his emotions well to people in the book, you know?
Yeah.
AJ, how are you feeling about these sections with Trull?
I mean, they're great. I agree. I think he's not very good at expressing himself. And he is just a sad boy. You say he's blaming himself. I think that is partly what's happening. It's, you know, where he's just dealing with grief, you know, a thing that Steve is very good at writing about. So
I agree about that.
Yeah.
So to leave Trull aside, because although we have these heavy sections of it, I think the reason I really grab onto the Udinas section as kind of the central part of this chapter is because there's kind of a build. It is building, right? And there's like it's building on what happened in the scene before, and we see him kind of
the wax.
Yes, we see him go through this whole process.
That was great.
And obviously it eventually leads to this kind of climactic scene where the corpse screams and comes alive, and then everyone kind of rushes to it. In India, I wanted to come to you and just, what did you make of Rhulad coming back like this?
Well, yes, I will say something about that. But I also feel like the whole process of them showing how you prepare the body, also just for the moment when he comes back to life, is like, you really can understand how truly painful that must be, just reading about how it, and then when they're talking about like, oh, well, you might accidentally, if you do this wrong,
pop their eyes,
burst the eyes. Like, and like it's just so graphic of how like, oh yeah, so the wax fuses to the skin and then the coins, like whatever. So when I read that you hear screaming, I'm like, oh, it just didn't register with me because I was like, no, he's dead, but he's like somewhere else. But then when it is him, it was like, I thought of it as really horrifying more so than sad. I was just, because the thought of it seemed so like insanely painful and gross to me, more so than upsetting. When AJ mentioned it in our chat as sad, I was like, oh, yeah, that is sad. But it was more so like a secondary thought to me. It is sad, but now I have a hard time feeling bad again.
I mean, I majorly agree. There's a big body horror element to it. And I think what you're touching on is dead on, because it's building to give you a lot of information. And later when it's talking about how this is affecting Rhulad later on in chapter 11, I think it's like really important for you to understand physically how the character, like what his physical state is, you know?
I even like Googled it to see what it looked like.
Oh, God.
Because I was...
First off, be careful of Google, Ange. I've told you, but it looks bad.
No, I know.
People draw some, seems bad.
Some colorful pictures.
But AJ, obviously, you kind of, I'm sure you thought it was horrific in some way, but obviously you felt like it was, I don't know, speak to what you thought of this part.
Yeah, I definitely would say it is like horrifying to think about and like gross and terrible. But I think just reading about Udinas's like the equal care that Udinas is putting into this screaming man as he was putting into like, the ceremony of preparing Rhulad's corpse, it was felt really like tender to me. And
I even think it's caring.
Yeah. And I think I'm looking for, there's one specific line where they say Udinas holds Rhulad like a mother.
Yeah,
and just
his head in his lap.
Yeah, it's just so, I don't know. It's just really heavy, And I said that on the Discord, and somebody said, yeah, because of the coins.
Got him.
But no, it just really, really hit me just how horrific this entire thing was to witness for Trull, because I think in that moment we're in Trull's POV, and to like see, his dead brother, his brother who is in pain, to just be cared for in this way, and just like the descriptions of Udinas like constantly, whispering, whatever he's whispering to like try and calm Rhulad down, and like even when he takes the dagger and pops the first coin off his eye, it's as he like puts his fingers on his eyelids to like, tell him like, hey, not yet, but like we're gonna get through this, it's gonna be okay, it's all gonna be fine, but you just need to like calm down. It's just so,
it's tough. Was anyone else really hoping when he went over to like take care of the eyes, was anyone else really hoping he was just gonna stab him in the throat and kind of put him out of his misery?
Fuck.
Because I was just like, that'd be a fucking move, Udinas.
I was not thinking that.
Yeah, no, it did not cross my mind.
All right, well,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, listen, I'm excited to talk more about Rhulad, especially in chapter 11, which of course he features such a large part in.
Oh,
but
yes.
I think we should keep the show moving and thank people back to some Patreon and then talk about chapter 10. So,
yeah, baby.
India, can you thank our lovely, lovely people?
Absolutely, I can. A very warm and gentle and loving thank you to Joaquim, Fiona, Whitney, and Alex. We love you so much.
Thank you all so very much. Like we say every week, and like I say at the end of every episode, we will never be able to say thank you enough. So showing this small bit of gratitude on the show is the least we could do.
All right, let's keep the show moving. Who wants to read chapter 10? Not me.
I got it. I got it. Chapter 10. Ublala Pung is unhappy with being used. Tehol does not entertain this. Tehol and Bugg go out to find Shirk, who has taken up residence at a brothel. They find her, and the matron of the brothel wants her out. Tehol suggests perhaps Ublala Pung can help satiate the newly revitalized Shirk Galal. Shirk says she will meet up with them later, and Tehol goes to the Azath house and speaks with Kettle. Kettle thinks about her undeath and then talks about the tower. She says someone in the ground will help them when he gets free, but that there are bad ones under the ground as well. Bad ones who would destroy them all. Before Tehol leaves, Kettle asks him if he dreams of dragons. In the palace, the queen's consort Turadal Brizad watches Bryce. Bryce thinks on Blue Rose and Kalans, kingdoms that once threatened Lether. Brizad then invites Bryce to speak with the Chancellor, and Bryce remains intrigued by the consort's figure. Bryce then speaks with the Sita about his experiments and the queen's consort. Breeze remains uneasy about this feud in the court. The First Sword goes then to speak with the Chancellor, and together they discuss the military strength in the Beedict brothers. Bryce leaves feeling unclever and plans to seek out Tehol. Shirk comes to the rooftop and meets with Ublala. Together they speak about the depth of the canal. They wonder how all the bodies are filling the canal, and they plan for Ublala to create a diversion. Bryce comes to Tehol's roof and consults with his brother. They speak about the feud between the king's allies and the queen's. Tehol says that his brother is part of a game whether he likes it or not. They then speak of Hole, believing he may die soon. And Bryce says he would avenge him. Finally, they discuss the differences between the three brothers. After Ublala creates a distraction, Shirk infiltrates Garen Eberic's estate. Inside Eberic's quarters, Shirk finds another dead man, Harlist Eberic, Garen's brother who was killed by Garen and reanimated. Shirk allies with Harlist and they collect papers, and briefly discuss Garen Eberic. They flee together. At the Azath, Kettle is feeding on another body. She hopes Tehol visits again soon, and that he can help them. The Azath Tower is dead.
It's such an interesting tonal shift that happens here, and I think even though I don't know, it sounds like it shouldn't work, but I actually don't find it that jarring. It goes from like such a serious scene at the Heroth tribe, you know, to like smash cut to the hijinks of Tehol and Lether, you know? And Tehol's here and he's talking to Ubalapung in a conversation I found distasteful, but you know, they set out this plan to find Shirk Alal, and then they go out, meet Shirk. You know, she's going to infiltrate this thing, and it's, you know, the first stretch of Tehol's thing. So what did you make of some of these hijinks in the prep up to the infiltration of Garen Eberic's estate?
So I think that this section, perfect in a really terrible, twisted way, is a really great example of Steve's ability to give us completely innocuous information, and then all of a sudden it's all very, very important that it was all there. And
yeah. Tell me what you mean.
Well, what I mean is you get a Blalapung and we think it's just funny that he's got a big old dong, and we think that there's really not going to be much more to that other than like he's got a big penis and he can use it. And then, you know, X amount of time later, you meet Shirk, and it's like she's undead, but we implanted this thing in her, and she desperately craves sex all the time, and that is going to get in the way. And then, but it's so far removed from Ubalapung that you're just kind of like, that is a shame. And then it's like, oh, now we're here, and of course those two are a perfect pair, but also the pair is not about them fucking, which immediately I was just like, is this going to be some weird B-plot of them having a... And it's like, no, actually it gets them together to be the perfect heist team. That is absolutely... There's no other pair that is going to pull this plan off other than these two completely unrelated individuals, and it really got me. And also, it's all based on just the dumbness of like their sexual parts. I don't know. I just absolutely find it insane that all these things connect. And also, what also connects them? They both went through the thingy. You know, where they have to go through the water. What's it called?
Yeah.
Oh.
Is it called the drowning?
I think it's called the drowning.
They both went through that, and that sets up a C plot, which I think actually is the thing I am most interested in this book, is this weird C plot of there being way too many bodies, and now people are asking all these questions, and I'm like, how does, where is this going to come from? Where, like, what's it going to lead to? Is Garen Everett been killing hella more people than we thought, or is someone else in the city just killing tons and tons of poor and indebted people? I love it. I feel like there's so many hijinks in this city that all build off of just completely random shit, and I love it.
India, what do you think of this kind of, I don't know, sex comedy element of it? I don't know. That sounds like I don't know how to describe it.
It is pretty much sex comedy. I think you got it.
I think it's funny. I think it does what it's intended to do. When I thought this chapter was really, really.
Yes.
And I really liked this chapter. I think this was my favorite.
I'm with
Really?
India. This is the chapter that I was just like, this book's the best. And then next chapter really brought me to that level.
Really?
So.
Okay, keep going, Inge.
No.
Tell me.
No, I thought it was just the most entertaining. I really, 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 really enjoy Tehol and Bugg. I think that they are hilarious. And the last chapter was like really good. It was great, but this chapter the comedic elements of it are just so funny. So like, I thought it was funny that the big giant man was very upset because he wanted to be looked at as more than a piece of meat. I thought that was funny.
Oh my God, we didn't even... Oh, sorry, keep going.
And Tehol was like, oh, you're upset because they don't, like, want to cuddle after. And he's like,
and Tehol's like, you're living my dream.
It's adorable.
I agree. I think it's funny. We don't even need to talk about how, like, Shirk just, like, rolls up into, like, the most famous brothel to exist in this part of the world and just takes it over, and no one can stop her.
That too. Like, the whole fact that she even ends up there is like, well, that makes sense. Of course, like, why wouldn't she? So I don't know. I thought it was funny. I thought the conversation between, I don't know if it was the person who, like, runs it.
It was the matron.
Whoever and Tehol was funny when he was like, oh, I'm her father. And she was like, what? I don't know. I thought it was I really liked it, and I'm enjoying like not having any idea what Tehol is really doing. I like the conversation between him and Bryce.
All of the above.
So yeah, I thought this chapter was a solid A+ in my book.
This is I'm blown away by all this.
I'm so with India on this. We are really vibing.
Why?
I'm surprised in two ways. First, kind of minor one, I mentioned my distaste, and I think sometimes some of Steve's writing around men having sex, I think can reinforce harmful ideas about men's sexuality. But much more surprising than that is that I think the other two Eater chapters are just like gangbusters, 10 out of 10, like, I don't know. I just like masterpiece shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just can't.
Yeah.
It's just like mind blowing shit. So the idea that this chapter, which is like fun and all, do you know what I mean? It's like, I had a good time, you know, it's like, Steve is funny. This is well documented. I think Steve can write humor. Do you know what I mean? But like, I don't know, man. So I guess I'm just so shocked, and I'm shocked that you guys prefer Lether to the Eater at all. You know, this is a bewildering thing to me.
I just think it's such an incredibly good and well-timed tonal shift. You know what I mean? Like, he could easily have he could have switched chapters 11 and 10. You know what I mean? And it would have kept us in the action of the Eater. But I just think like the decision to be like, yeah, you fucking wait right there. All right? Yeah, we'll come back. Don't worry. But first, let's do some funny shit. Like, I just think that's such a bold choice, and I love it.
I think it's really masterful, and obviously Steve pulls it off with a plum in a way I can't really understand.
I didn't. Wait.
I think
where do you put a plum?
And it goes dead on. See, Josh, I think you're right in that it goes straight. Like 9 and 11 are one whole story, really.
Yeah.
Right. But then smack dab in the middle is Tehol being Tehol, and like Bryce. It just like, but it doesn't take away from it. And if anything, I think it heightens it and makes it even better. Do you know what I mean? Fucking, this book fucking rules. That's my opinion. We haven't gotten to it, but I really fucking like this book, guys. So
I did not know going into this that Midnight Tides would be fucking hitting like it does, but ooh. It's different.
It do be.
It is different.
We can have some bigger picture thoughts at the end because we're about halfway through now, right? But we really got derailed. We were really just talking about this opening part. So I'm gonna come to India. So Bryce is in the. Do you want me to come to Adrian?
No,
Okay.
I'm fine with it. I might, yeah. go
Bryce
ahead.
is in the court. He talks with the Sita, and he's talking about the politics of the court, and he's like, man, it seems like everyone's got all these schemes, and he's like training, and then he talks with the queen's consort, and I wonder what you more think about. He talks to Tehol later about Bryce's ability as a politician and to work within this court, and I wonder how you're feeling about Bryce overall.
I like Bryce. Bryce. I think he doesn't feel like playing these games that you have to play in the type of position that he's in. And I liked Tehol's advice to just like don't say anything, because if you don't say anything, you'll appear to be the smartest and like you're just kind of, you know, taking in everything but not giving away anything. And I think that Tehol kind of like does that, but just more with diverting things to be funny. Like somebody will ask him a question and he'll respond to something completely unrelated, and it just kind of, you know, he can keep all of his thoughts but give away nothing, and hear other people's thoughts and still be able to put pieces together. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but you know, like, I think that Bryce is just, you know, he just wants to do his job and like live a simple life. But in a position like that, you know, you got to play the game. So I don't know. I don't really understand his point that much in the story at all. He's definitely not my favorite character, and any part that has to do with him, I don't find to be necessarily interesting yet. But it's, again, I don't know the bigger story of what his purpose is. So maybe eventually I'll be like, oh yeah, that was cool.
I think it's interesting.
But,
I think in some ways Bryce is the most well-rounded or most realistic Bedek brother. Do you mean he's like, I don't know.
I disagree
I get
completely
that.
with that statement. I think that
What?
he is so naive.
Okay, but that doesn't mean he's not well-rounded. Like,
Yes, it does.
Okay.
You can't be well-rounded and have no idea how to play the game. I feel like it's a very.
I mean well-rounded. I
Like,
mean
if you're-
well-rounded as a character, not as a person. You know, I think like when I think about the Bedek brothers, he's the one who most seems like just like kind of, I don't know. I believe him the most. You know?
He feels
Yeah.
like a human
Yeah,
being.
he's like down to earth. He's like
not a
He's
character.
flesh and blood to me. You know?
Yeah.
As opposed to Tehol,
just
which is
feel-
like obviously so much part of his character is performance. Do you mean as a performer, as a character, you know? Anyway, so, you know, afterwards, Bryce, yeah, let's do that now. Afterwards, Bryce goes to meet with his brother again, and they have a conversation about Hull and some other things. And what did you make of this, our second conversation on the roof between the Bedek brothers, AJ?
Sorry, I'm just refreshing myself on what they talk about.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know how to, what's the politics like? What's happening with Hull?
Yeah,
I'm gonna,
How do I do it?
Of all the conversations that Breeze has had and Tehol has had, this one was the least remarkable for me. It was just like nothing super. I don't know. I just wasn't super engaged by it. Like none of the Breeze stuff that was happening, I was really engaged by, which was kind of upsetting for me because up until this chapter, I was really on the Breeze train. But reading these sections he was in this chapter, I was just not. It was just not clicking for me.
Well, I just have a question about who wanted Breeze to go find out information, and do we know why he wanted him to was that him, Tehol asking him to find out information?
find out what information.
He was like, can you go, he asked him to go to the wherever he was. Where was he initially when he, like I don't know if it's, hold
I'm
on.
really lost,
Let me
bro.
look.
Are you talking about when he was talking to Garen Ebericht and
Yeah.
he was asking him to help?
Yeah, to find out information, to hear just to listen to what he can find out somewhere. Did I make that up? I didn't make that. I know I didn't make that
I
up.
think that might have been Garen Ebericht, but that was a while ago.
Or
No, it
when
was
he's
in
talking
this
about
chapter.
to the consort.
Was it, the Queen's Consort then?
I'll get my book.
All that stuff also kind of just like flowed
I'll
right
find
by
out.
me. I did not engage at all with any of the Bryce stuff in the.
Well, let me
any of the Bryce stuff
let me
in
say
this chapter.
something and we can salvage this. I'm a little surprised to hear you bounced off it, AJ.
Sorry.
I really liked this section, and it includes like a quote I actually think about all the time. The two brothers are talking about the differences between them, and they're just musing on how they ended up different, although they're all brothers. And the line is, 3 stones in a stream, all subjugated to the same rushing water, yet each shaped differently depending upon its nature.
Yeah, I thought that was neat. And then Tehol says like, Breeze is one type, Hull is another type, and then Tehol is kind of a mixture of both. I don't know. I thought that was interesting, but like, I don't know, man. I just didn't get a lot out of it. So,
Well, this brings us kind of the ending part of it, and this, Josh, is what you were mentioning. Shirk and Obala kind of set out on this heist, and they go inside, and what's that? Garen's brother's dead, and he wants sharp teeth, and, you know, they kind of loot the place and then escape.
he wants sharp teeth is such a good bit.
It's so fucking funny. It's so fucking funny. What did you make of this whole section, Josh?
I thought it was like a highlight of the series is just this just like her being so detached and like 4 guards there, 7 there. I need a big diversion. And then Ublala just like boom, boom, grabbing 2 dudes or whatever and just like, you know, yeeting them across the lawn and then being like, I'm not mean to anyone! And then running away.
It's really good.
Like, his whole motivation is, she said, you know, they said they didn't like you.
He's like, wait, why? She's like, I don't know. It's like, oh, man.
and then they're just, I don't know, her sneaking in. It's like the silliness of that dude, like, in the servants' quarter being kind of like, I think something's wrong and I'm gonna do something about it. And her being like, I'm gonna fuck you into submission, which again, we touched on, in some ways not great, but also completely not what I thought she would do. I really thought she was just gonna murder him, but then uses that to kind of wait a bit, and then sneaking up and finding the dead brother. Just all of these I don't know. I love it. I think it's the silliest shit. It's great for me.
I liked it too. I thought it was funny. I really liked when they were just starting, and she was like, well, I bet you can't jump. You definitely can't jump across this roof. And he was like, yeah, I can.
And then the beginning of that next section with Breeze is like, hey, what's going on down there?
It was like he fell through a roof.
And then they were like, why'd he do that? And he was like, a dare. I thought that.
Yeah.
I just think that those little parts are so funny.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I enjoyed this chapter. It was just a complete. It was just a whole laugh, man. I just I loved it.
I fully agree, and it's hard to talk about. Like, I don't know how I host a part of this. Like, I don't know how I question you to talk about it or like have an interesting conversation about it. But like, I agree, it's funny, you know, and it's funny. I think me and AJ were talking about with some of the Willful Child books, which I think are pretty funny, you know. And I just don't know how to say anything meaningful besides I think Tehol is funny when he talks to Bugg, you know? I think the one...
I mean, there's not much more to say about it, I guess.
It's like, oh, Steve, you did a good job with it. They were funny when they say the nice words together, and I'm like, hoo, look at you. Oh, you know.
Yeah.
I do that too. A good belly laugh every now and again.
I don't know about you guys, though. I always feel particularly insane when I'm laughing at a book, when I'm just like fully alone and I'm just like, I'm like feel like I'm losing my mind, you know?
Yeah.
No, it's like, wow, I'm so intellectual. I'm laughing at a book.
It's because it's almost like you told the joke to yourself. You're
exactly.
Like, I get it.
Yeah.
That's so true.
And I usually feel extra impressed at the author because I'm like, this seems like a high bar to get me to laugh alone at a book. Do you know what I mean? But like,
yeah, I agree.
Yes.
Yeah, well, so much of comedy is like, you know, timing and inflection and all this stuff. And like for someone to be able to get all of that through in just, you know, a few words is
and
wild.
the reader in books controls their own timing about when things come when.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's you know, I don't know, but it's such rapid fire dialogue and it's just great banter, you know?
Yeah.
Quickly before we move on, I have a question about the dead brother who's alive.
Yeah.
And how.
Harlan?
And what the hell?
The same way Shirk is.
We are being India. There is there is just this whole a number of unimportant things that are suddenly about to be very important at some point in this book. I don't know, like Garen Ebrucht. There's definitely we definitely feel like we know about him enough, and I feel like there's going to be some gigantic reveals, especially pertaining to like how he had money before he got his pardon, because that's like now the big question is like, what was the favor he called in to get his brother reanimated You know what I mean? And does that go in with like I don't know. I feel like Garen Ebrecht might be having he might owe his basically life to somebody and is just murdering all those people and putting them in the river. I don't know. I feel like we're gonna eventually get some pretty crazy fucking reveal with that. But we don't know anything yet.
Who killed the brother?
Garen.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Pushed him off.
They said
he killed his
that
brother.
in the chapter,
Yeah,
right?
pushed him off a roof or
He killed his
something.
brother.
Yes. Because they were like, oh, I either this or
Yeah, I fell
got
down the
pushed off
steps
a
or I
roof.
got pushed off the roof. Yeah.
Yeah. And then wait. Peter, are you leaving this chapter?
No.
Okay, good. Because we didn't talk about Kettle.
Exactly. That's right about to bring that to you, Inge.
Kettle's
I did just want to say one thing I really loved about this section on top of the...
Before you do, can I just reinforce how fucking funny it is Harlan Eric wants the teeth? You know, the teeth thing is so fucking funny.
He's even just like, oh, I want to be beautiful and smell good, but also, can they give me sharp teeth?
Can I get the Sharpie teeth?
And she's like, wait, why do you want sharp teeth? He's like, oh, well, I want to be threatening. She's like, well, why don't you just stay dead? It's very good.
so funny.
But one thing I really love on top of that, and on top of Shirk not being able to fully hear what Ublala is saying while he's attacking people, she goes past a statue of Garen Ebrecht and carves a mustache into it.
Yeah.
So it's just like it's just so good. It's so goofy. It's so much fun. So yeah, I just wanted to.
Seems like we all loved this chapter the best.
It's a good chapter. I'm on Peter's in Peter's boat where 9 and 11 are like gangbusters, crazy shit, and 10 is just fun to read. Like 9 is really kind of what concreted this book ahead of everything else for me, Josh.
Oh, okay.
Not this one so much.
But
that's fair.
But before we move on, and speaking of Harlan and the undead, I would be remiss not to mention the chapter ends at the Azat Tower with Kettle and her thinking about the state of the tower itself. So, India, what do you make of Kettle and what's going on?
I don't know what I make of Kettle. I think Kettle is so, I feel like what Josh is saying, where it's like, you know, something crazy is going to happen, but you just don't know yet. I just feel like Kettle is going to be in the center of all of it. I don't know why. I also feel really bad for Kettle when she asks to call Tehol her dad. That was sad.
Yes, it was.
And that she wanted like brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And who the hell is talking to her? I don't know. Do you guys know?
It's the tower, baby.
I mean, Peter does, but
I do know.
Whoever the good man is, there's a good one.
Yeah, I
He's
thought
gonna
they were
help
all
us. And I was
bad.
like, I don't fucking trust the good one.
Yeah, I don't really trust the good one, Kettle. I don't. But yeah, I mean, I have no idea at all. I have no idea what's going on with that with the Azaf Tower old house. No idea. Well, I wish I did. I still don't even understand the concept of it, to be honest. So that's where I am.
Well, it doesn't matter anymore, Ian, because it's dead.
But is it?
Whatever the fuck that means.
I just want to know what the fuck is going to happen with that house. So bad. So bad. Who's coming? What's happening? Who's getting out of the ground?
Yeah, I thought I had.
Are they all coming out of the ground?
I thought I had a grasp on it.
Steve's building the base, baby. We're not yet. All right, let's keep the show moving.
God, yes.
Just waiting for that bass drop. That 6 Skrillex bass drop.
All right.
Chapter 11. Udinas looks out over the water, thinking of Rhulad and the sword. He waits outside of the citadel, where all the Eater have gathered. Buruk and Seren wait as well. Buruk suggests the Warlock King should just kill Rhulad, and Seren wonders where Hull went. Inside the citadel, all the Eater have gathered. Tomad and the Warlock King have debated and come to a conclusion. Rhulad must surrender the sword. Rhulad refuses to, saying that he was given the sword and that they are ruled by the one who gave it. That the Warlock King had made a pact and plans to betray. Rhulad calls the Warlock King to kneel. He asks all to kneel as he promises to give the Eater an empire. Troll watches in shock, as many Eater do, including his brother Fear, and then the Warlock King. Udinas wades into the water, pondering his own life. He turns back, and his friend Rhulad tells him Featherwitch could not cast the tiles. The holds were closed. Together, they see the Lethri delegation arriving. The delegation arrives and is greeted by Seren and Bugg. They speak to the first eunuch about the absence of the Eater and where Hull is. Seren recounts what has happened with Rhulad. Wither awakes Udinas, and the Wraith pesters him to go to the Citadel. Wither urges him to serve Rhulad and to become indispensable, and the Wraith reminds Udinas of Menandere's assault. Udinas comes to the Citadel and sees Rhulad as Emperor. He warns them of the Lethri. He is sent to fetch them. When the delegation has arrived, they are surprised by Rhulad's ascension. Han and Mozag and the prince begin to argue about the seal harvesting, but the first eunuch requests the discussions end for the night. After the Lethri leave, Troll feels shattered. Rhulad calls his brother Fear forward and asks to be gifted a wife. Rhulad wishes to take his brother's betrothed, Mayan, as his own. Fear gives up, and Mayan accepts with horror. Troll believes the Eater are beginning to fall. Udinas tells Seren then about what has happened, that Rhulad is a tyrant, and that she ought to tell the Lethri people to prepare for war.
Oh, a little egg on your face there, India Jones. Look who's sitting all there like, isn't Rhulad's acting all cool? Why is Troll getting up all in his business? It just seems like this whole Mayan thing is no big deal, you know? Like,
Did I say that?
And then look,
Yes.
yeah, that is almost word for word what you said. Now come to the Citadel, look inside, look what happens, you know? How are you feeling about Rhulad Sengar right now, ma'am?
Well, I also said that I didn't feel bad in chapter 9 when he had the coins on him, so initially, and then I did feel bad. But then I read this and I was freaking livid. Ugh! So pissed. So pissed.
Why are you pissed?
He's such a shit. He's such a shit. He is so much worse than he was. Like, before it was like, you know, kid brother being a little asshole, but now?
Stop. You are saying the equivalent of, I was cool with this kid when he was like, I'm gonna murder people, and then he did it, and like, what a fucking, it's so out of left field.
No, that's
If
not
someone
true.
says they're gonna do-
murderers.
no.
They're all murderers. Wait,
God.
no. First of all, he was like, you know, just like, no, like I'm gonna, but like, you know, when people are like, I'm gonna do it, but then they don't do it. So I was like in that vibe. But also, we can't pretend that this whole crippled god situation is not also, you know, really affecting this decision. He's a lost little boy, never got any freaking praise. Crippled god was like, listen, I got you. And now I'm not surprised. He's just very weak-minded, but such a shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I felt so bad. But also, Fear, I was so angry. You're so dumb. Why would you say okay? This whole thing makes no sense. It makes no sense. Fear is dumb. Fear should have said no. They should have chopped off his hand when they had the chance, if they could. Don't know what would have happened. All I know is that this happened way too fast. And now it's like, okay, well, we have to go to war now. So everybody, he has the sword that we don't know what it does. We have no idea what the sword is, but he says that he's the emperor now. So I guess we all got to listen. Like, you all can explain to me. That's my question to you. How does that make sense?
I want to say that in some way I do agree with India. I feel like the book has been setting us up that like, they're a very, like the organization of the tribes, the Tisti Eater is very, traditional and all this stuff. But I agree with India. I do feel like they went from A to B. They went from A to N really, really quickly. I agree with you, India. I like the fact that I guess it's tough because their leader kneeled second or first, whichever. Like I can't remember. Was second? Fear was first.
Yes.
Like I get that. Like watching your leader kneel. I guess because you got to remember, India. I guess now I'm trying to convince myself and you at the same time. Han and Mosag up till this point is like the single most powerful eater to have existed in quite a while. Like the fact that he like bound a fucking god. And I guess, like, if I knew someone that bound a god, and he was like, I ain't fucking with this dude, I guess I'm now also not fucking with the other dude, because I don't have a god that I can control. I guess maybe that's what it is. I don't know. It is
That's
weird to me,
fair.
because they're so, I don't know, the Tisti in other books are so honor fucking bound. Like, it seems crazy that none of them are like, no! They're all like, Like, they bow quick. I don't know. It's strange.
Ange, I basically understand what you're saying. I don't, because definitely where we go from the start of chapter 9 to the end of chapter 11 is like there's a big change, right? I recognize what you're saying. But the reason I actually think it really caused no problems, I don't really care about it, is because I really believe that it's, since this section is so centered on these characters. Do you know what I mean? I really believe that Rhulad ends up where he goes in chapter 11, and the same goes with Troll and Fear. Do you know what I mean? I follow these characters there 100%. So it's not, for me, the reason I don't bounce off it at all is because I don't think it's like a question of like, oh, well, would the Eater do this, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, Rhulad would do this. And I believe this is what would happen. And like, I feel so in the room when this whole conversation's going on, and then when Rhulad kind of ascends, to use that word. AJ, what do you make of India's thought, and what did you make of this scene?
I do think I'm in the same boat. Like, I don't know. It's complicated because last episode I was so soft on Rhulad for like, wanting to save his brothers and be noticed and blah, blah, blah.
Told you guys.
And I do think that's still true, but I do also think that the crippled god noticed his fatal Rhulad's fatal weakness and super took advantage of it to be like, oh, okay, well, I can turn this person into a crazy, dictator ruler if I just give him a cool sword. So I don't know. I initially in my notes said that I have no more sympathy for Rhulad. I feel really bad, but now thinking more about it, I do think it's more the crippled god's doing and less Rhulad just being himself. Because I don't know.
I agree.
Yeah, but I mean, all the man stuff, that fucking sucks. That shit sucks so bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Fear should have said no.
Well,
Mayan should have said no.
Yeah,
I get it.
Okay,
Scary sword. I get it.
I'm curious if Fear says no. I mean, Fear's like the strongest like physical eater. Do you think that like Rhulad cuts him down? Like, I don't know.
No, I think that he ties him to the water and leaves him there to die.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, because at the end of that whole scene, Rhulad like sits down and is like worn out just from standing. So I honestly think all of it was just kind of posturing. And if Fear had said no, Rhulad would have been fucked.
That's what I'm saying. I think Fear could have probably taken him.
Yeah.
It is worth noticing the man stuff technically happens later on, but I kind of feel like we're kind of just talking about the whole Rhulad part of it. And I just want to say, I know what you're saying, but I feel like it's, like the crippled god obviously came to him because Rhulad, as you were saying, is like kind of a broken character in the first place. Like he's so insecure. And like he obviously feels unsure of himself, wants to prove himself. Like he's like, it's all stuff having to do with being this younger brother. And I don't know. Obviously, it's like consuming him. And I think it's interesting you bring up him not falling down, but obviously being so exhausted. And something I really love to touch back in on it is how clear the coins on him is like a physical thing. Yeah. And like reading about his body makes me in pain. I'm like, man, this is, I don't know, he is suffering. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's one part where he like yells at Troll or something, and then it's just like a coin fell off his face. I was like, oh, God.
He like put his arm out.
It sucks. Oh, it's hard to read.
Yeah. One thing I really do love, and then we can move on, Pete, if you'd like, but one thing I really do love is how weak Rhulad seems when they're bringing him into the Citadel, and then how immediately, like, the Warlock King's like, hey, give me the sword, and he just stands up and is just like, no. And just like immediately is like, I'm your king now.
It made no sense.
It was a wild turnaround. What do you mean it made no sense?
He starts screaming in pain. Why is the pain gone? Because you can see now? Like, because now
I have
points
to
are
imagine-
fused to your skin.
I
If
think
anything,
the
shouldn't
cripple
you,
god-
I don't know. Whatever. I can't make sense of this. I don't. I understand. I understand that it makes sense. I'm saying this in quotations, but it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. But I'm just saying from my perspective, I can't wrap my head around it. But I will, but I can't.
I will say, Ange, I know you're like bringing this other point up, but you do seem kind of you seem emotionally upset about Rhulad and that he's leading leading the Eater now, you know?
I gotta say, I'm really into this book now. I was saying it yesterday. I was like, well, I like it, and it always happens at some point, and we're here, but I'm pissed. I'm pissed.
Yeah, you seem, that's what I guess I'm struck by. You seem like pissed at the book. Like you're invested. You're upset right now. Not like,
upset.
oh, I don't want to read, like I'm frustrated. You're like pissed at these characters and this, what's going on.
I am. And yeah, and it doesn't, and it's just such a mess. It could have all went so well, but then Rhulad had to go. We'll get there. Let's go.
Yeah, so then to cut away to the outside of the Citadel in this part, Josh, the entourage shows up. And we're here hanging out, and we got, if I ever watched that TV show, I'd make an entourage joke, don't got one. And they're all here, and they're on the beach, and they talk with Udinas, and then he kind of leads them to the hall. And this is our first foray into this meeting between these two nations. What was your first impression of how things are going and the people who came on Lether's behalf?
So I'm always really upset in books when there's like the cliche of like unreasonable prince boy or other royal person, and like, you know, an entire series of events is caused by like someone sending the world's worst negotiator. And I'm very happy that the first eunuch is here to just be like, yo, fuck this kid. I will do the speaking. He's here to give this some weight. I'm here to do the mouth talking because he cannot.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I just like, the image of them being on the beach and being like the rainy, soaking beach. And they're like, do you want to come back to our camp? And the prince is like, we'll hear it now. As 4 slaves are holding servants are holding his gigantic umbrella. It's so good. I don't know. It's very funny because, again, it brings some levity to this horrifically tense scene. So I wasn't really expecting that kind of bit of humor, but it was very appreciated.
I agree. It's a real tonal management. Like, we cut away, and it's like a reprieve from kind of the horror of what's going on with the Sengar family.
And it really, I would say, I didn't really notice it much until these 2 chapters of just like, Lether's really not fucking prepared. You know what I mean? Like, they have really set themselves up to just get absolutely decimated by having an army of exclusively poor people who, like, their reason for being in the army is if they are conquering, they get stuff. But, like, defending, they really are they going to put their... And just, like, seeing that and seeing them, like, walk into the chamber with all the Eater who are just like as one kneeling, like they are one body of people. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there might be some split allegiances due to some things that are currently happening, but like when it comes down to it, they are Eater and they do Eater shit and they will go to war. I don't know. I just really, it really put into perspective like how strikingly different these 2 cultures are.
I think you make a really interesting contrast there, Josh.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worth mentioning Hull has dropped off the radar.
I gotta say, I don't find Hull to be as...
intimidating.
I would say important and also intimidating as everyone else is like, he gonna come in and fuck it up. And it's like, I mean, but like, here's the thing. The more you say that, the more power you give him to do so. If we all just start saying like, yo, that Hull dude's not really gonna do much. He's an idiot. Guess what? When he shows up, y'all can be like, nah. But if we're over here always like, oh, so scary. Oh, what's he gonna do? He's gonna come do it. And thank you for coming to my TED Talk on the power of
Words.
Yes.
So, AJ.
Yeah.
That's kind of Seren's piece and what happens with the delegation. But Udinas is awoken, and then he's kind of urged towards the Citadel.
Yeah.
And Wither impresses upon him to go to Rhulad. And I wonder what you make of Udinas here and where he's at as a character, because a lot of this is about him in relationship to Rhulad, but where do you think he's at, and what do you think about him?
I think like at the end of chapter 8, whatever, I don't remember exactly what chapter it was, but the one where he's like, okay, I'm going to kill all the Eater, we're going to be cool. I think even Udinas has gone through so many changes of like his personality and like thought processes and stuff in just, you know, the first half of this book. It's wild. Like he started off as just like, yeah, you know, I'm just kind of chilling. I mean, not chilling. He's a slave, but you know, you know, not like really strong opinions on much stuff. And then he gets possessed, and then he's like, okay, I'm going to kill the Eater. And now it's kind of like, I don't know. I feel like the introduction of God King Rhulad has really thrown a wrench in everything. Like everything that we've known or thought about all of these characters has kind of gone out the window, because now it's just like they're all trying to figure out how they fit into Emperor Rhulad's kingdom, you know?
Yeah.
It's so interesting. And I do really like how Udinas is like playing into it, because he shows up and Rhulad's like, yes, you heard my call. And he lies and is like, yeah, I did. Like just to show to show fealty, you know, immediately without having to like, he didn't even have to kneel or anything. You know, Rhulad's like, oh, you heard me. And he's like, yes, I sure did. I'm here because of you. And I don't know. I just think it's really cool. It's neat. I love Udinas as a character.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk more about him. And then chapter ends of what?
Sorry, I did just want to ask, when we see Udinas first, is he trying to kill himself, or is he just standing in the water and then like falls? Because he gets dragged out of the water by a Wyval.
I think he kind of I think he's letting himself just go.
Yeah. Okay.
My impression was he was not like maybe contemplating it. I don't think it was an attempt.
Okay, because I didn't think it was either until the Wyval showed up and like dragged him, you know, up the shore or whatever, and now he has those bruises on his shoulders. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just wanted the clarification there. I wasn't.
I don't know. I mean, it's definitely. I thought about that too, but I also think it was maybe more using the sea as a metaphor as it's been throughout the book. So.
Okay.
But the chapter ends.
I don't know if you know. AJ, I don't know if you know. This book's called Midnight Tides.
Whoa!
Yes.
It's a lot of
like I believe he was in the sea, but I just think it was for more of those reasons. Then anyway, so the chapter ends with kind of course, Udinas is like, "Hey, Seren, the Lethari should prepare for war. Like it's going to happen, you know." And it's kind of building into what's going to happen. And book 3 and 4 are coming upon us. You know, we're about at a halfway point. And Ange, I know you said you are feeling good about the book, but I wonder if you had any thoughts other thoughts you want to share at this halfway point, and maybe some predictions going into the second half of the book.
First, I'd like to start this with a question.
Okay.
So at one point, what is his name? Rhulad tells Udinas,
which AJ pointed out, there's Rhulad and Rhulad, and what are we doing?
Yeah.
Inge, I was like, are you talking about Rhulad? How did you forget the character's name? And then I forgot there's a whole Rhulad. What this book, baby? Sometimes, Steve. Sometimes.
So Feather Witch can't read the tile thing.
Yes. The holds are closed.
Because the holds are closed.
Yes.
Have we ever discussed spooky the holds? And so I don't know what episode it was, but we were talking about how the houses, the Azath houses, and the holds are different and not at all related. Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark.
Yeah. Yes.
Jesus. Yeah.
Because it seems a little fishy that the tower is dead and the holds are closed. I don't know.
I didn't even make that connection. Shit.
I didn't make that connection either. I've given up. The way I see it is
there is likely no connection, but also then why are you doing this?
Yeah. India, the way I'm at right now is at some point Steve will give me all the information and then I guess I'll figure it out. Until then, there is no need for me to waste time in my life pondering the connection. It will be revealed eventually.
It's so okay. Well,
or if it isn't, then I'll have to square up. You know?
I understand. Yeah. I'll join you in squaring up.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, okay, fine. Whatever. Peter, can you answer that question or no? Can you just like say no if it's no? All right. I'll leave it at that. Anyway, yeah. So going forward, I have a feeling that I mean, like, I don't know. Is there going to be a war? I guess. If so, I'm not looking forward to it unless it's going to be like good. But if it's like, read from Seren's perspective, I'm just going to not even bother. So I'm expecting, I don't know. I feel like Troll is going to be like, fuck you, Rhulad. And I don't know what's going to happen there. I have no idea. Everything's changed. I have no opinion. I have no perspective. Where does the crippled god come back into this? I don't know. Mm-hmm. He has to, doesn't he? What does the sword do? Just keep you alive when you die? So many questions. I just have questions more than anything. I have no idea where it's going. I don't know.
Josh, closing thoughts on this first half of the book and any predictions going into the second half.
I'm hot on Midnight Tides, and I'm excited to see where it goes. And I feel like there's not enough time for a full war between the Lether and Eater unless that war is decided in like one pivotal moment. So I guess that could happen. I don't know what that moment would be, though. More importantly, I'm excited to know why it's important that the canal has lots of bodies in it. And I can't wait to figure all that shit out.
AJ?
Yeah, I am also very curious as to what Troll is going to do to wind up getting tied to the posts. I don't know, man. I do think there is a war coming, probably. I mean, all signs point to yes. And I just keep thinking like, well, what is a war between the empire, quote unquote, of the Teist Eater and the Lethery people look like? Because all the Lethery people that we've interacted with are just like, it's the Benedict brothers who are just like a bunch of fucking goofballs. But then I was thinking Udinas is also a Lethery, and he's got Wither on his side. He's got all those shadow wraiths and stuff. So I don't know if something's going to happen there. If when a war breaks out, I don't know, man. I am enjoying reading this book, though. I'm excited to read more.
Can I just say, it just occurred to me that Steve's back on his bullshit. We have another empire. That's all he wants to do is write about imperial shit. And of course, I've just now put two and two together and you can't be an empire without expansion and taking shit over. So like, yeah, I guess they gonna.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually would really love to talk about imperialism and colonialism in this book. I think it's a really interesting part of it, and it's definitely a really different reflection of it as compared to talking about Malazan imperialism and colonialism. Do you mean so? But we're in the end of the fourth quarter here. Football and
fuck you.
But before we go, we got just a quick, only short answer. AJ, brother zone, number one brother for the week.
Oh, Troll, I guess. I honestly, I don't know. So much shit happened. I liked reading the talk.
Josh, brother bear. Who's your brother bear for the week?
Fucking Rhulad, baby. Taking the goddamn reins.
I didn't know if saying Rhulad would be too controversial.
No.
Mine's Rhulad too.
Okay.
Rhulad is like emerges onto this, like in these chapters, he emerges onto the stage with the spotlight on. Do you mean like, it's like, oh yeah, this character's in the fucking book, baby.
Yeah.
He
has just taken his end of Act 1 villain solo in a musical.
Yeah. India, brother of the week.
For power moves, obviously Rhulad. However, so much hatred. So for my loved brother of the week, I'd have to say Tehol. Crushed it. Love him so much more. For no reason other than he's hilarious.
Obviously, he's a bit more good vibes than Rhulad, though, isn't he?
A bit.
Before, Pete, we close everything out, I would like to read the last few lines of chapter 11, because we've been talking, we all just said Rhulad's our brother of the week. And I
love it, baby. Read me a good quote. I love a quote.
Yeah. So like I said earlier, Rhulad really did throw a wrench into everything, and now all the characters are kind of rethinking their place in this world and stuff. And so Udinas is standing in the rain after seeing Seren and he says, "There was no meaning to be found in lifeless weather, in the pulsing of tides and in the wake of turning seasons. No meaning to living and dying either. The tyrant was clothed in gold, and the future smelled of blood. It meant nothing." Just
What
like
meant nothing?
nothing, anything.
good.
No things mean anything. The weather isn't symbolizing anything. The tides don't symbolize anything. Life and death also means nothing. Like, just Rhulad has come and just fucked everything. Nobody knows anything. Everything
intense.
means it all means nothing. It's just it's so good. It's so good.
Shout out to Steve.
So yeah, shout outs to Steve.
Yeah, obviously, right?
Yeah.
This fucking book, baby.
All right.
This fucking book.
No, it's really good. It's really,
Yeah.
really good.
Yeah.
It is.
All right, but let's wrap this up. Of course, next week, 10 Very Big Books, Gmail, Twitter. Let us know what you think of the show, and always excited to hear from you. And AJ in the outro. And next week we're reading chapters 12, 13, 14, and 15. And look forward to hearing you then. You know, it's been a long time. I say come, you say passion. Come!
Passion.
All right, see you on the next one.
Hello, everybody. Producer AJ here, endlessly editing podcasts. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of our podcast. As always, you can let us know your thoughts about this and all of our other episodes on Twitter at 10verybigbooks or via email at 10verybigbooks@gmail.com. If you'd like to join the conversation on Discord, you can head on over to bit.ly/VBB Discord and join everyone there. It's a really wonderful community. We have channels for every episode. We have channels for interests. We have channels for you to share pictures of your pets or other cute animals or food that you're making or that you have bought. It's a really great time. So again, that's bit.ly/VBB Discord. That's capital V, capital B, capital B, capital D Discord. That link will also be in the show notes. Big shout outs this week to all of our patrons over on our Patreon. We have now officially passed $500 a month after Patreon takes their cut, which means we can finally start saving to buy better equipment, for buying books in the future, for paying us all a little bit. It's all very cool stuff. So also keep an eye out on our Patreon over the next couple of weeks, maybe month. Eventually there will be another post about what we are able to do with everything that we are earning. Thanks to all of your generous donations. So like we said in the show, thank you so much. If you'd like to check out our Patreon, you can visit the link in our show notes or head on over to patreon.com/10verybigbooks. And as always, thank you so very much to Dan Gesrick for making our spectacular logo. You can follow him on Twitter at Dan Gesrick for a tweet about kicking. And of course, the wonderful music in today's episode is by the one and only Amaranthin from their album Simulant Rain, which you can find along with their other music on bandcamp.com. Links to their pages will be in the show notes, and 10 Very Big Books will be back in 2 weeks on January 1st, 2021. with chapters 12, 13, 14, and 15 of Midnight Tides. I'll talk to you then, and thank you so much for listening.
Udinas, see...
Why?
Udinas 2 sees Rhulad's corpse.
No, it's Udinas.
Udinas.
I legit thought I was saying it Steve's way. I can't even the difference. Udinas.
Just look at how it's spelled. No, Udinas. Yeah. Just look at how it's spelled.
Udinas. Udinas.
There you go.